Welcome to the live reading today from the last chapter, chapter number 7, Practical Application of Bhagavad-Gita from the Basics of Bhagavad-Gita, a thematic study of Bhagavad-Gita based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamam vande, Shri Gurun Deenatarinam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, the first practical application of Bhagavad Gita is Gyan and Vigyan, which is, Gyan is the theoretical knowledge that becomes the realized knowledge, which is Vigyan, when it is put into practice. Bhagavad Gita was spoken not to a sannyasi or in an ashram in the Himalayas, but to Arjun, a householder and a warrior, and on the battlefield. This means that the divine message of Lord Krishna is meant for all of us, whether we are young or old, householders or renounced. So what are the do's and don'ts? Why are there so many rules and regulations in spiritual life? This is one question everyone ponders on sooner or later into when they start their spiritual life. So the answer is very simple. It says here, a doctor imposes many do's and don'ts upon his patients to facilitate the patient's recovery to normal health. If the patient follows these restrictions properly, he will recover quickly. Otherwise, the illness will prolong. Similarly, everyone in this material world is spiritually sick and needs urgent treatment. This treatment too, therefore, like medical treatment, has several do's and don'ts which are ultimately beneficial for spiritual recovery. One who voluntarily and sincerely submits to such a discipline will make quick spiritual advancement. So to make spiritual advancement, we have to follow some do's and don'ts, that is some regulative principles or some restrictions when we are following the spiritual life or when we are trying to pursue the path of bhakti. So if we by our own accord voluntarily अपनी इच्छा से हम अपने स्वतः अपनी इच्छा से ये do's and don'ts को मानेंगे, उससे क्या होगा कि जो हमारी भक्ति की प्रोग्रेस है, एडवांसमेंट है, वो शीघ्र होगी, वो जल्दी होगी. So when Arjun says to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 6.34 that controlling the mind is extremely difficult, Lord Krishna agrees but declares that it is possible by abhyas or constant practice. It is difficult, but with constant practice, it becomes second nature. And Vairagya. Vairagya is the renunciation. This is from chapter 6.35, Bhagavad Gita. So in 6.34, Bhagwan says, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balvad dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayor iva dushkaram. Translated, it is, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think it is more difficult than controlling the wind. In chapter 6, 35 verse 35, Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena Tukonteya Vairagyena Chagriyate. Translated as, Lord Krishna says, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. We can understand abhyas to mean acceptance of many do's in spiritual life and vairagya to mean acceptance of many don'ts. So abhyas is the practice of so many do's, the things which we have to do in the life of bhakti, the practice of those things, that is abhyas, and vairagya or the renunciation or leaving those things which are not asked for in the spiritual life, that is the vairagya in bhakti. The do's help us advance on the spiritual path, while following the don'ts prevent us from following from falling back into the materialistic consciousness. So what you can't eat, or what you can't practice, that is going to help us to keep falling back into the materialistic way of life. For example, intoxication, which is drinking alcohol, smoking, all this. If you don't do that, you will be able to stick to the spiritual path. You will be able to follow a clean living. And what is not allowed to eat in the path of bhakti, that will also keep your mind and senses clean. Some of these important do's and don'ts are enumerated below. The first do is the association of the devotees. The most important step we can take in life is to enter into the company of devotees of Lord Krishna as much as we can. A devotee is very rarely found. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that amongst millions of various yogis and perfected beings, hardly one is a devotee of the Lord. Even a moment's association with the devotees of the Lord is more valuable than even liberation and elevation to heavenly planets. What then to speak of ordinary material benedictions? So says the Srimad Bhagavatam. So one moment's association is more valuable than the liberation and elevation to the heavenly planets. This is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So even by just a moment's of association with devotees of the Lord, the door to the path of perfection is opened. Therefore, never considering devotees to be ordinary and never seeing them from a mundane point of view, that is, as being poor or rich, belonging to this caste or community or that, educated or uneducated, etc., one should try to associate with them in a humble and devotional spirit. One can obtain something only from where it is available. Bhakti is available only in the association of devotees and nowhere else. Thus says the Supreme Lord Himself again and again in Bhagavad Gita. So, first is the association of devotees, which is a do for bhakti. Then the second is making friends with the devotees. Having come into the association of devotees, one should make friends with them and try to develop pure spiritual relationships with them. First is to have the association, and second is to make friends with the devotees. And you don't just make friends on the material level. You try to make pure friendships. For example, when you see them, you ask about the shastras, that if you have been reading some shastric books from, for example, Bhagavad Gita, so you discuss with them what is in your mind and what are your realization, or if you are not able to comprehend something, or you can ask your devotee friends that what they have been reading and how their sadhana bhakti is going, how their routine is, so you can take some inspiration from each other. Man is a social animal, so the saying goes, one needs friends and well-wishers for the company. So even when we are practicing bhakti, we need some kind of company, because man is a social animal. As we all know, instead of befriending and associating with those who have no interest in spiritual life, one should rather spend more time with the devotees of the Lord. This is perfect or samyak kirtan recommended for this age. So for this Kali Yuga, this has been recommended. So if you want to progress in bhakti, to have friends who are involved in bhakti, who are practicing bhakti. For Satyuga, it was meditation. So when it was Satyuga, meditation was recommended for devotion service. For Treta Yuga, it was sacrifice. Lot of yagyas were done. For Dwapar Yuga, temple worship was done, because that was one of the ways people could attain the bhakti level. And for Kali Yuga, all we can do is do the sankirtan, do the kirtan of the Bhagwan's name, or chant the holy names. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 3rd chapter, 52 verse, it says, Krite yad dhyato vishnum tretayam yajato makhe dwapare paricharya yam kalau tadhari kirtanat. Translated, whatever result was obtained in Satyug by meditating on Vishnu, In Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I had posted a translation of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you want to have a look, it's in one of the earlier posts from yesterday. I'm trying to get the name of the person who had done that. So in Brihant Naradiya Purana 38.1-6, it says, Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Nam eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva nasti, eva nasti eva gatir anyatha. Translated as, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord Hari. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So Kali Yuga is age of quarrel and hypocrisy. This is all is there in the world. Whether you see in the homes or in the wider world or among the countries, there is some kind of unrest always amongst people and the nations. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the same Lord Krishna himself who advented 500 years ago to propagate the chanting of the holy names and to inaugurate the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga. So Yuga Dharma for the Kali Yuga is the chanting of the holy name, Sankirtan. He has instructed the world to chant the Mahamantra that is recommended in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is the great, easy, effective and most sublime method of deliverance from the darkness of this material world. It can purify the heart and produce pure love of God, that is bhakti. Therefore, one should try to participate in such sankirtan as much as possible. Now, the third do which we have to do for bhakti is the japa. The holy name should also be chanted individually on one's chanting beats. Apart from doing the kirtan or harinam, which is saying the holy name together, one should also chant holy name on an individual basis. This is a very important and beneficial discipline as it helps us to gradually awake love of God. Whilst there are no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy names, one should follow the guidelines recommended by the great Acharyas. Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of Iskcon, recommended that we chant at least 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra on our beads. There are 108 beads on one mala. In one mala, the holy names should be chanted aloud and very clearly and be heard attentively. So the method is to say them clearly and also hear them at the same time. The beads are necessary because they help us to concentrate on the holy name. Also, some authorities on mudra believe that rolling the beads between the fingers promote the noble thoughts and calms the mind. Such regulated chanting also serves as a discipline and furthermore ensures that our minds does not fool us into thinking that we have chanted more than we actually have. And the fourth do is the seva for bhakti. Seva means to render service to the Lord and his devotees. This is highly recommended in the scriptures as a necessary requirement for the growth of our bhakti. It helps us to bring about purity, humility, joy, togetherness, and community spirit when it is done in the right mood and the right manner for the right purpose. So purity and humility is derived from doing the seva, joy, togetherness, and community spirit. That also is derived when it is done in the right mood, in the right manner, and for the right purpose. Doing seva is actually an honor, a great privilege, and a great fortune. So one should never take the seva lightly or for granted. To give a seva or the service, like we say in English, to be given the opportunity to serve the greatest personality of creation is not a small thing. Example of seva are cooking for the deities, preparing garlands or jewelry for them, cleaning the temple, helping in publication or preaching work, donating to the temple, and so on. Ambarish Maharaj was a great devotee. He was a great king. He has set the example of how one must be willing to do even the most menial services, however big one may be in the world. deity worship. This is the another do for the bhakti. The deity or murti in the temple is directly the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is no difference between the murti and Bhagwan. Lord Krishna has a pure spiritual form. We need spiritual eyes to see him, but very kindly he has made himself available within material elements to accept our service and to give us his personal audience or the darshan. So we should never see the deity as a piece of stone or wood. He is directly the Supreme Lord himself. There is a great deal of difference between a deity and a statue or idol. A deity is a bona fide representation of the Lord himself, whereas an idol or statue is simply the figure of some other being like human or a demigod or a devi or devata. The forms of the deities are not made whimsically but according to the authorized descriptions in the scriptures and the realizations of great devotees of the Lord. When we look at the deities with faith and love, they reciprocate according to our level of faith. Otherwise, they will simply appear to the faithless eyes to be idols. We should try to take darshan of their lordships at least once every day. We should dedicate our activities to them. So like we were saying before, and you must have heard in so many other classes of devotees, that we should try to live our life with Bhagwan as the center. Then our life will be sublime or fine. So the other do for the bhakti is prasadam. You are what you eat, the saying goes. If we eat pure food, we will become pure. If not, we will become contaminated. So in Bhagavad Gita 3:13, chapter 3, verse 13, Lord Krishna says, when one offers food to Bhagwan with love, before eating, one becomes liberated from the sin. When food is not offered, it becomes a cause of sin. Yajna shishta shinaha santo muchyante sarv kilbishaha bhunjante tetva agham papa ye pachanti atma karanat. Translation is, the devotees of the Lords are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So we should offer whatever we wish to eat to the Lord in our house and eat nothing but that. And we can offer only what he accepts. He accepts only pure sattvic food. It says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 26. So we cannot offer him meat, etc. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prechati tad aham bhaktya uparitam ashnami prayatat manaha. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 26. Translation, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit or water, I will accept it. Prasadam is the karma free or sin free food, and it is also very delicious. So the next do is reading spiritual literature. Reading spiritual literature is highly recommended as it increases one's understanding, faith and conviction. It keeps one's mind and energies properly focused on the goal of life. Lord Krishna explains that to study the Bhagavad Gita is to worship him with one's intelligence. Such reading must become a daily practice, even though sometimes it may become difficult. The fruits of such austerity, however, will be very sweet. His Divine Grace A.C.Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has provided for our benefit volumes and volumes of wonderful, enlightening and inspiring spiritual literature. One can nourish one's mind and intelligence by studying these books very diligently. And the next do for the bhakti is visiting the temple regularly. But at present times of this problem worldwide, of this COVID problem, this is not possible. So there is online darshans, online classes and sessions every temple is doing, so we can benefit from that. To do all the above mentioned activities, for example, hearing, chanting, association, etc., and to learn them in a proper way, a proper place is required. That is a temple of Lord Krishna. Temple is not simply a place where one can visit occasionally to bow down one's head, take darshan, and perhaps make a donation. This is certainly good, but not enough. So what is the real purpose of visiting a temple? The real purpose of visiting a temple is to get spiritually educated. A real temple is a spiritual training center where we can learn about Krishna consciousness and are given the proper atmosphere and inspiration to practice it. Some people say, why should we go to the temple? God is everywhere. Certainly God is everywhere, but do we have the eyes to see God everywhere? Real temple is a place where we are trained to see God everywhere. And in any case, if God is everywhere, then is he not in the temple too? When people say, show me God, we can take them to the temple, show them the beautiful deities of the God, and teach them how to see and understand God. Now, the other do for bhakti is make your home also a temple. So sometimes people say, I can practice bhakti at home. What is the need to go to the temple? Certainly one can, no doubt about it, and one should practice bhakti at home. But in order to learn how to do that properly, one must visit a bona fide temple where one can receive good guidance. A child can study at home, yet the parents send him or her to the school. Similarly, one should practice the principles of Krishna consciousness both at home and in the temple, and indeed everywhere. Hence, the regularly visiting of temple, one will learn how to make one's home temple and how to make one's heart a temple. One should try to maintain an altar, that is a small temple, in the house. One may take guidance from the devotees about how to do this. Every day the family members should gather at a suitable time to do Harinam Sankirtan and to read from a book like Bhagavad Gita. Occasionally devotees may be invited home for spiritual get-together. The food should first be ordered to the deity or the picture of the Lord Krishna, because if you haven't got a deity, you can always have a picture in the house before anyone also eats. So your offering or the bhoga becomes the prasad. Everything at home should be done for him. Consider him to be the Lord and master of the house and the family. In this way, one can keep Lord Krishna in the center of one's life and consciousness. So you can see how easily Krishna can become the center of your life. Spiritual charity is the other do for the bhakti. The scriptures say that the householders must offer charity for the welfare of society and for the service of God. There are different kinds of charity according to the three modes of nature as described by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Charity given for the sake of the Lord, for his service and to spread his message is the highest because it is transcendental. That is beyond the modes of nature. So if we just give charity to some person on the road or some organization, sometimes we don't know which way they are going to use that money. So if they are not going to use the money for the right cause, then if the money is misused, that will bind us to the world. If somebody has taken the money in the charity from us and they've used it for the wrong purpose, for example, say intoxication or some wrong, propagate something wrong, we will get the karmic reaction for it. Giving in charity protects the householders from greed and possessiveness. That is another advantage of giving the charity. By parting with the fruits of labor for higher cause, the householder is purified. So if we are giving charity for a proper cause, which for example feeding the homeless or building of a temple or publication of proper bona fide acharyas or their message or publication, or for the publication of the Bhagavad-Gitas and the Bhagavatam, or spending the money to give the gifts of such books and publications, that purifies us and also purifies our household income because it's for a higher cause. So one should be careful to see that which kind of charity they are giving their money for. The other do for the bhakti is fasting. Regulated fasting on specific occasions is of spiritual significance in an important austerity, and it's an important austerity for those seeking spiritual advancement. In India, it is common to find people observing fasts on particular days of the week to appease some certain demigods. This kind of fasting, however, has no spiritual value whatsoever. This must be some kind of revelation to you all. But to carry on, fasting should be done only on days or occasions connected with the Supreme Lord for His pleasure. So we should try to fast on the days which are connected with the Supreme Lord, because He is the one who is giving all the vardhan, like we say in Hindi. If we are just doing fasting for the other Devi Devtas, they're only giving us what they can have, what is sanctioned by the Lord Himself. We should remember that. Devotees of Lord Krishna generally fast on the following days. The first one is the Ekadashi. This is the 11th day of the lunar fortnight and thus occurs twice a month. It is the day of Lord Hari. Ekadashi is the day of Lord Hari, in which Bhagwan is especially pleased to offer spiritual benedictions to those who perform austerities and devotional activities for His satisfaction. Devotees try to maximize their hearing and chanting and other devotional activities on Ekadashi. They also perform austerities like fasting. So that day devotees keep for Bhagwan specifically, exclusively. Some devotees perform full fasting on this day, abstaining totally from food and water. This is called Nirjala fast. However, it is sufficient to fast from grains and beans only and rice, and partake of foodstuffs like fruit, vegetables, nuts, milks, and you can have non-grain flowers like amaranth, samo, or the samak rice, or the jungle rice, like they say them here, and then singara atta, kuttu atta. You can have them. So there's so many variety of things you can prepare, or you can just keep your fasting simple as you want. It just depends. Devotees should at least try to follow this standard. So this is the minimal standard one should try to follow. And one should also fast on the appearance days of the Lord and His avatars. The anniversaries of the descent of the Supreme Lord into this world in His different avatars are celebrated joyously by the devotees. Festivals are held to glorify and remember the wonderful pastimes of the Lord. It is recommended that one fast on these auspicious days to invoke the pleasure of the Lord. Fasting Nirjala is prescribed till different times on each appearance day, depending on what time of the day that particular avatar appeared. Here is example. First one is the Krishna Janmashtami day, the appearance of Lord Krishna. Fasting is done till midnight. For Ram Navami, appearance of Lord Ramchandra, the fasting is done till noon. For Nrsimha Chaturdashi, for Lord Nrsimha Dev, the fasting is done till sunset. And for Gaura Purnima, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day, fasting is done till moonrise. It is recommended to do Nirjala on all these days, but it all depends upon your health, time, place and circumstance, the weather, and how difficult your daily routine or daily life is, and your job and health. So you can always have fruit and milk, and or you can fast with the Ekadashi standard. But all these fasts are open with only the Ekadashi food, because these four are the appearance day of the Vishnu Tattva, or the Lord's different avatars. Appearance and disappearance days of great Acharyas. Just as the appearance days of the Lord's avatars are important, so are the appearance and disappearance days of the Lord's great devotees. The word birth and death are not used for pure devotees of the Lord, because they do not come into this world and leave the world like other ordinary people who are bound by their karma. Rather, these exalted personalities come as special messengers of the Lord to further His mission. Fasting Nirjala till noon on specified appearance and disappearance day of the Acharyas is recommended. So you can, when we get a calendar from our local Iskcon temple, all these dates are written. Fasting on the appearance day of the Acharyas. And the list is there, and it's up to us that how much we want to do in the beginning. In the beginning, Ekadashi is enough. Slowly, as you have spent some time in the bhakti, then you can decide later on how much you want to do. There is no hard and fast rule. For specific dates and occasions, it is advisable to keep a copy of the Vaishnav calendar, which is available at any Iskcon temple. You may also consult devotees for further information. Okay, tomorrow we shall continue this, because I think there's still quite a bit left. It will be, how many pages it is? Still, I think 4 or 5 pages. We'll continue, and tomorrow we'll read about the personal habits of a devotee, which is nice reading. And actually, how many? 1, 2. Yeah, I'll read it tomorrow, because it will get too long a reading for you to sustain your interest, and then we shall come to an end of this book. So I shall see you all tomorrow. Please forgive me for any of my mistakes in delivering this message of this book, and I shall pray for all of you as well, that you all advance in your bhakti, and I hope you will also pray for me and bless me to be able to become a sincere devotee of the Lord one day. I'm also in a very learning stage yet, even though it all began almost, it will be almost 10 years next February, but still it seems like early days. There's a lot to learn for every one of us. It's like a marathon. It's slow. You have to prepare so much, because only Bhagwan knows how much preparation we had done in our past lives, how much sincere we were, and what is our desires and level of sincerity in this lifetime. So let us pray for each other, and enjoy the rest of the Sunday, and I shall see you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.